When Kristen joins a prestigious university, she never imagined a centuries-old sculpture could hold such a dark and powerful secret. As dreams blur with reality and ancient spirits stir, she finds herself at the center of a chilling legacy built on blood and belief. Sit back. This is more than a story. It's a haunting journey you won't forget. The eyes of an artist don't just see colors, they feel them. Each brush stroke carries a mood, a season, a story. Only a true artist can recognize this hidden language of hues. As Edgar Degas once said, "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." Art isn't just paint on a canvas, it's layered storytelling. Art, at its core, is storytelling, writes Terry Tempest Williams. Kristen paused, her voice soft but commanding. "And on that note," she smiled, "would anyone like to share the story behind their piece?" A hush fell over the room. Then, without hesitation, Ade sprang to his feet. He was barely 5.3 feet tall, with a face so animated it was almost impossible not to laugh at first glance. The class turned their eyes to him, anticipation thick in the air, and sure enough, someone giggled. "I'm Ade from Ondo State," he began, voice rising with flair. "From a family of—" The lecture hall erupted in laughter before he could finish. Ade had that magic. No matter the mood, he found a way to light up the room, even if it meant hijacking a moment. Kristen chuckled softly. "No, Ade," she said warmly. "The story of your art piece." Kristen was a fresh graduate herself, young, stylish, and full of promise. She had just landed a spot as a lecturer at one of the most prestigious universities in Nigeria. For her, it wasn't just about art. It was about storytelling through color, texture, and emotion. Teaching students to see art the way she did felt like a gift. Smart, passionate, and charismatic, Kristen didn't need validation. Her energy was magnetic. Even her sense of style was artistic, clean, thoughtful, expressive. It was clear to anyone that she had a future, a great one. "If you work hard enough, stay consistent," said Professor Yemi once, "you could be head of department in under 10 years. Professor Yemi, the current HOD of the Arts and Culture Department, was a middle-aged man whose bright eyes contrasted with his snow-white beard. He had been quietly watching Kristen for years. He first encountered her during her second year at university, during an event called the Ruju, an annual exhibition showcasing the best students' artworks. It was the heart of the department, the one time each year when their work was truly seen. Many students graduated without ever having a single piece displayed at the Ruju. Kristen had 10. Her work stood out, not because it screamed for attention, but because it whispered to the soul. Her colors spoke, her strokes had intention. When it was her turn to explain a piece, she never said much, but what she did say always landed with weight. Yemi returned to the Ruju the following year, and the year after that. Eventually, he made her an offer. "Come to Peren," he told her. "You have something rare, an understanding of art that only the best can recognize. At Peren, art breathes. It's not just part of the curriculum, it's the heartbeat of the school." Kristen loved her alma mater, but she couldn't deny its flaws. The art department was tucked away, neglected, and outdated. The Ruju was its one moment of glory. For the rest of the year, the department faded into the background, treated more like a hobby club than a serious discipline. She had to make a choice. Stay where her love for art was barely seen, or move to a place where it was celebrated, where stories like hers could live and breathe. She remembered the pictures from Peren, artwork so lifelike it felt as though they had been carved centuries ago from bronze and sacred wood by the Hik tribe, artists whose legacy once lived in the very region where Peren now stood. It wasn't just about art. It was about history, identity, and legacy. And she wanted in. After each lecture, Kristen would pass through the heart of the department, a wide open field framed by towering columns and shaded by age-old trees. At its center stood the pride of the school, the legendary Hik tribe sculpture collection, alongside select pieces from outstanding students over the years. It was a tradition. Each year, one final-year student was chosen to create a Hik-inspired sculpture. Their piece would be placed alongside the ancient collection, a symbolic initiation into greatness. Every time Kristen walked through that space, a quiet ache tugged at her. If only I had studied here, she often thought. Maybe I could have left my mark. Maybe my own Hik-style sculpture would be standing here too, telling my story. She would pause to study the carvings, the bold lines, the intricate marks, the way the expressions seemed to breathe. They looked too real, too alive. One afternoon, walking toward her office, that curiosity gnawed at her harder than usual. She stopped and sat on the bench facing the tallest of the sculptures. It was perfectly centered, magnificent, majestic. It stood taller than the rest, like a king among his subjects. Even the way it was positioned suggested authority, dominance. She stared at it. This one, it's trying to speak. There was something in its gaze, deep, ancient, commanding. Kristen felt herself being pulled in. Slowly, unconsciously, she rose from the bench and stepped closer. Her breathing slowed. The world around her dimmed. She leaned in, her eyes locked on its own. And for a heartbeat, just one, she could have sworn it looked back at her. Closer. Closer. She reached out, fingers trembling, until she touched the cool surface. Then, snap! A tap on her shoulder. She jolted. It was Professor Yemi. "I see you're drawn to Yedi," he said with a warm smile. "The chief of the Hik tribe. He exudes majesty, doesn't he?" Kristen blinked hard, still half in a trance. His voice sounded distant, like she was underwater. "Kristen?" he repeated. "Huh? What did you say?" she asked, slowly returning to herself. "You know what," he said with a thoughtful pause. "Come to my office. I have something to show you. Do you have any other lectures scheduled today?" "No, sir. I don't think so." "Good. Walk with me." In his office, the scent of aged books and varnished wood filled the air. He moved to a cabinet, opened a drawer, and pulled out a thick, weathered photo album. "This place is steeped in history," he said, laying it on the table and opening to the first page. "That statue you saw, Yedi, is believed to be over 2,000 years old." Kristen's brows lifted. 2,000? He chuckled. A king needs his people. That's why, each year, our best student crafts a new tribe member to join him. She flipped through the pages with him, eyes wide. "It's a great story," she said. "But, 2,000 years? That seems far-fetched. I've studied Hick tribe art before, and nothing from that era looked so expressionistic. And the preservation? It's too perfect. Most pieces that old don't survive this well." Yemi gave a low laugh. "I thought the same at first." He paused, his expression shifting, something darker passing through it. "Until..." He trailed off, eyes distant, as if weighing whether to say more. Kristen leaned in. "Until what?" He looked at her, then smiled, too calmly. "You'll understand soon." Kristen left the school that day with a strange weight in her chest. Something didn't feel right. No matter how much she tried to dismiss it, she could have sworn the chief's eyes had moved, just slightly, just enough to unsettle her. "Maybe I was just too drawn in," she told herself. "It's just art, just powerful art." But that night, sleep didn't bring rest. She found herself walking, alone, through the center of the department. The air was thick, the sky unnaturally dark, everything around her was still yet humming with something ancient. The sculptures were there, but they were different, alive. She moved as if in a trance, unable to stop her feet. Her mind screamed to turn around, but her body betrayed her. At the center stood the chief, not as stone, but real, flesh. Robes of deep red and gold, skin like carved mahogany, eyes glowing with ancient knowing. He sat at the head of a great table, feasting, surrounded by others, his cabinet. Kristen's breath caught. The lecturers, every single one from the department, they stood before him, heads bowed low, silent, reverent, as if giving homage to a god. Then the chief looked up, straight at her, his eyes locked on hers, deep, unforgiving, eternal. "Come," he said. Just one word, commanding, absolute. Fear surged through her chest. She fought to stay still, to resist whatever force was drawing her in. Her limbs trembled, her heart pounded in her ears, and then somehow she broke free. Her body jerked, her eyes flew open. She was in her room, drenched in sweat. Breath shallow, heart racing, but she could still feel it. The cold on her skin, the weight of his gaze. That wasn't just a dream. Whatever that was, it felt real. The next morning, as Kristen walked to class, something felt different. Warm greetings, soft, knowing smiles, a strange warmth from the lecturers she passed in the halls. People who once barely noticed her presence now acted as if she was part of an inner circle. She had walked these same halls countless times before. Why did it suddenly feel like she belonged? Still haunted by the vivid dream, or was it more than that, she approached her class. At the door stood Yedi. "Miss Kristen," he said, almost too casually, "I see you've met the tribe." Her heart skipped. "What do you mean by that?" Yedi looked at her for a moment, like he was trying to measure how much she knew. Then, with a forced smile, he shook his head. Nothing. Forget it. But Kristen couldn't forget. Not what she'd seen. Not how real it felt. She barely made it through class. Her mind was spinning, unable to settle. Afterward, she returned to the bench in the center of the department, the place where it all began. She had to go back. She sat and stared, deep into the eyes of the king. Yedi. She begged for answers in silence, and once again the trance came. But this time, she was aware of it. She knew this realm, and this time someone spoke. "Hello, Kristen," a voice said from behind her. Deep, calm, commanding. "I'm Yedi." She turned slowly. There he stood, not as stone, but as a man. Real, breathing, powerful. "What is this?" she whispered. "Is this real? How?" "You are special, Kristen," Yedi said. "Your mind is different. You see what others cannot. You can help us tell our story again, bring us back to life, through your art." "What do you mean? How?" "Our tribe is long gone, but we survive through belief. If you and the world believe, we live again. Touch me." Her hand trembled as she reached out, and when her fingers met his skin, it was warm, alive. She gasped and pulled away. "Long ago, we preserved the souls of our people in figurines," he continued. "When a tribe member died, their essence was sealed within. Their sons could commune with them, seek guidance. But now we need more. If we can bring you fully into our realm, you can awaken belief again. We can reign." "No," she said, backing away. "I can't. Your tribe, it's gone. This place isn't real. I won't be a part of this." Instantly, the realm shattered. She blinked and found herself back in the real world. Professor Yemi standing right in front of her. "Come with me," he said calmly. They returned to his office. He didn't waste time. "If you join us," he began, "in 2 years, you'll be head of department. In 4, the faculty head. In 8, possibly vice-chancellor. You'll have the stage, the voice. You can share your passion with the world faster than you ever dreamed." Kristen stood frozen. He gestured to a photo on the wall. Purin was founded by Professor Francis Abide. After years of failure, he realized there were powers he needed to consult. He made a pact with Yedi, that the chief would be revered. But to maintain the spirits, the figurines needed to be cleansed, with blood. Her stomach turned. "Every 10 years, a student is chosen," Yemi said. "A sacrifice. Someone selected to clean the figurines and bind new life to them." Kristen shook her head. "No, that's madness." "It's tradition," Yemi said, calm as ever. "The founder created a system. Each lecturer is initiated to keep the belief alive. Anyone who builds a statue by Yedi's side is bound. If they abandon the school, they die, but if they remain, they flourish." "I never built a statue," she whispered. "Exactly," he smiled. "That's why you have a choice. You're free. That's why Yedi wants you. He says you're special." Fear surged through her. She bolted out of the office and into her car. Her hands trembled as she fumbled with her keys. A knock startled her. It was Aid. "Miss Kristen, please, open up." She rolled down the window. "You were trying to tell me something earlier. What was it?" "I know all about Yedi," Aid said quietly. "My brother. He was one of them. He built a statue, tried to leave. He died. His soul's inside one of those figurines now. He told my mom everything, but we couldn't stop it." I need to leave, Kristen said. I can't be part of this. I came here to stop it, Aid said, his voice cracking. After my brother died, my mom broke. She never recovered. I thought, if I could end this, maybe she'd come back to me. Maybe I could stop more families from being destroyed. Tears welled in his eyes. She's all I have left. Kristen's heart ached, but her fear spoke louder. No, Aid, you can't stop this. You can't stop any of it. We need to escape. A new blood sacrifice will be chosen soon. The British tried to wipe out the Hick tribe centuries ago, Aid said. They didn't use swords or guns. That fight, what they used, holds the secret. If we can get close to all of them, maybe I can use— Stop, Kristen interrupted, shaking her head. I don't want to know. That thing is over 2,000 years old, Aid. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to understand it. Aid stepped back from the car, disappointment painted all over his face. He thought he had found an ally, but Kristen was already pulling away, her hands trembling, her heart caught between fear and something deeper. The war for her soul had begun. The next morning, Kristen arrived on campus with a purpose. In her hand was a sealed envelope, her resignation letter. She walked briskly toward Professor Yemi's office, her heart pounding with every step. But just before she reached the door, something made her stop cold. Across the hallway, by the center of the department, stood Ade. He was cleaning the figurines. But it wasn't just that. It was how he was doing it. His movements were gentle, almost reverent. His eyes were soft, glowing with a strange warmth, like he was communing with something sacred, like he belonged there. Kristen's breath caught in her throat. That's not possible, she whispered. He hates this. He wanted to stop all of it. Why does he look happy? The thought sent a chill down her spine. Could it be? No. She shook her head quickly, trying to silence the creeping doubt. She pushed open Professor Yemi's door with force. He looked up, calm as ever. Kristen, I was expecting you. What's going on out there? She demanded. Why is everyone watching Ade clean the figurines? And why isn't anyone stopping him? I thought only lecturers were allowed that close. Yemi leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. Ade has been selected, he said simply. He is to cleanse the figurines with his blood. What you see now are the pre-ceremonial rites. He is in a trance, communing with Yedi. Kristen's world spun. Her knees felt weak. No, she murmured. Not Ade. He came here to fight this, to stop it. Now he's— Her voice trailed off, swallowed, just like the rest. Yemi studied her face, waiting. I must stop this, she said silently to herself. Then she looked up, meeting his gaze. Calm, composed, a mask. When are the ceremonies taking place? She asked. Midnight to night, he replied, as though announcing a lecture schedule. She nodded slowly. Okay, she said. I've thought about it. I accept. Yemi smiled, his eyes gleaming with silent approval. I'll be there. Kristen rushed home, her mind a storm of fear and urgency. She threw her bag aside and flung open her laptop. If she was going to stop this, she needed answers, real answers, and fast. She dug deep into archives, scanned through dusty PDFs, and pored over fragments of colonial records detailing British contact with the Hick tribe. One thing kept surfacing: salt. Time and time again, the accounts repeated the same strange detail. The British initially tried swords and guns. They failed. The tribe was immune, or something more than immune. Bullets did nothing. Swords couldn't pierce them. The Hick fought like ghosts wearing flesh. Then came the shift. Salt. The British began firing balls of salt from cannons, saline rounds. The stories described how, almost instantly, the tide of battle turned. The Hick fell, not in the way ordinary people fall, but dissolved, disintegrated, unmade. Kristen paused, her heart racing. Why salt? Then she remembered. The figurines were made of bronze. But these weren't ordinary sculptures. The souls of the dead were sealed in them, ancient, sacred, bound by rituals long forgotten. And bronze, when exposed to salt, corrodes. If the figurines weren't just art, but vessels, salt could be a weapon. Maybe the weapon. She closed her eyes, thinking fast. There were too many figurines. She couldn't get to them all, not alone. But Yedi, he was the center, the anchor. If what Professor Yemi said was true, all souls were tied to him. The king. If she could reach Yedi and destroy him, maybe she could break the chain, free everyone. The students, the lecturers, even Ade. A heavy weight pressed on her chest. She had nearly run, had nearly done nothing while more lives were pulled under. She had the chance to stop it, maybe the last chance, and this time, she wouldn't run. Midnight. The courtyard was silent, thick with an eerie energy. Torches flickered, shadows danced. At the center stood Ade, eyes glazed, still caught in a trance, arms slightly outstretched, consenting, ready to be offered. Around him stood the lecturers, robed and chanting, their faces hollow with duty and fear. Kristen approached slowly, dressed in ceremonial garments. She was to be initiated first, blessed by Yedi before the ritual could proceed. From the darkness, Yedi stepped forward. Majestic, towering, terrifying. His figure shimmered with an ancient presence. No longer just bronze, almost flesh. As he drew closer to place his hand on Kristen's head, her heart pounded. But she did not tremble, not this time. She dipped her hand into her pocket, clutched the glass vial tightly, salt, and without hesitation, flung its contents directly onto Yedi. Screams. Not human, not earthly. A shriek that split the air, like a thunderclap underwater. Yedi staggered back, his form hissing, corroding, melting. His once majestic figure dissolving into sludge. The ground trembled. One by one, the surrounding figurines began to crack, their surfaces bubbling, warping. Then came the release. An airy, ghost-like wind, full of whispers and light, souls escaping, freed from centuries of captivity. Aid gasped awake, collapsing to the ground, blinking hard like a man who had returned from the dead. The chanting stopped. The circle broke. Lecturers scattered in every direction, no longer bound. Free. The next morning, resignation letters flooded Professor Yemi's office. Dozens. signed. Final. And, ironically, Professor Yemi couldn't accept them, because he too had written one. The spell was broken. The chain shattered. Ade stood quietly by the old bench at the center of the department, a faint smile of peace on his face. Kristen packed her things, got in her car, and drove far. As far as she could from Purin, from its cursed soil, from its haunted past. Whispers spread fast. Why did every lecturer in the Arts and Culture department resign overnight? What caused that strange fire that consumed the historic main block? Rumors ran wild. Stories of ancient gods, blood sacrifices, and cursed sculptures. And then came the final blow. The university grounds caught fire one night, strangely selective, burning only the old foundations. A cleansing fire, some believed. The government, forced to act, moved students and staff to temporary sites while launching a full investigation into the university's dark history. But even as the flames died and the smoke cleared, one thing remained uncertain. Was Yedi truly gone? Or was he still lurking in shadows, waiting for belief to return?